the popcorn and the cheese and the parsley.
Celery and cheese.
Popcorn.
Everything but parsley.
Grated cheese.
Straight popcorn, nothing but popcorn.
Chopped parsley. You have to have them all.
Cheese, parsley, popcorn.
Everything but the cheese.
Popcorn, cheese, and parsley.
Lots of cheese. The parsley, the cheese, and the popcorn.
You're putting popcorn in soup?
Everything. Everything. You must have everything. So that would be cheese and popcorn.
I have popcorn for dinner.
No popcorn. No popcorn.
The popcorn, the grated cheese, and the parsley.
I was shunned for not putting popcorn on my soup.
Nobody puts popcorn in soup.
I mean, it isn't celery soup if you don't put everything on it. It's not just plain cream of celery soup. It's made with a different ingredient. I don't know when the tradition started. I remember that as long as I can remember that we had celery soup on Christmas Eve.
Celery root soup has been served for as long as I can remember.
We've been coming with the Riehl family and the Swayze family at Christmas Eve for at least 70 years.
We always had Christmas at my parents' home at 1 East Road.
Ah, 1 East Road. Well, the decorations, including every niche and corner of the house, was a sight to behold.
The house was 3 stories plus a full finished basement. It was a big house.
My first recollections of 1 East Road was that there were huge 2, 3, 4-story homes. When you're small, things around you are much larger than when you grow up. But there, as children, it was a real adventure to be in a home like that and having free reign to go anywhere you wanted to in that home and to play and to roam around. Bernice decorated beautifully.
She would make like Christmas trees of pine cones glued together. They'd been sprayed gold and stuff like that. So she would like come up with these kind of fairly elaborate things.
The center attraction over the fireplace, which was heavily laden with greens and cones and whatnot, that stands out in my mind.
Outsiders are made to feel welcome, but there are certain things required by Aunt Bernice, as I remember.
Oh.
I can't remember what they were. What were they now, Gretchen?
Well, we always tried to be on time.
No. You wouldn't slide down the banister.
She had the table, beautiful shape, beautiful centerpiece. Someone across from me asked for something. So I tried to pass this tureen to the person. I couldn't do it. I moved the centerpiece. There was this booming voice from the end of the hall. Who moved that? So-and-so.
There was always a tradition when I was younger of all the cousins lining up on the stairway at my parents' house, and there was this kind of curving stairway that came down, and singing Christmas carols for everybody. We were so precious.
We must get on the stairs and line up and sing Christmas carols. Before we could open presents, the kids would have to get on the stairs and sing. And I can remember that was sometimes torture.
All the Swayze children, all the Riehl children got on the steps and they sang. And even at college age, I had to sit there and watch her sing with all the other children. Remember how they were when they were youngsters? Remember?
No, but it was a wonderful tradition.
The first time that I had celery soup was in the year 1956, and the circumstance was at the large home of the woman who would later become my mother-in-law.
The first time that I had celery soup was probably in the late 40s, during the period that I was courting Nancy.
Okay, the first time I brought Rick, we were in high school and he was 17, and he was really overwhelmed with it. But he liked the celery soup, and he's been eating it ever since. So in fact, tonight he said that it's been 20 years that he's been coming to these things.
Oh, she just told me there were a lot of people going to be there. Didn't know anything about the soup, so I tried it, and it's been a hit ever since. I love it. Oh, I loved it.
The first time I brought George for Christmas Eve, he didn't quite get why this was so important or why it was such a big deal until he had it. And then he realized why it was tradition for our family.
The first time I had it, I was, how should we put it? I was warming up to it. But I soon learned to enjoy celery soup quite a bit, and now I look forward to it every year.
I'm actually truly not absolutely positive where the recipe came from, but it must have come from Grandmother Gehring, because I can remember having cream of celery soup as long as I can remember.
It was probably, 20, 25 years ago when I first made it. And I have been making celery soup, I guess, every other year since then.
I'm not sure if there ever was a recipe.
Nobody gave me a recipe or anything. It just sort of wrote down what you heard and remembered, and that's the recipe.
Rita and I each made up the recipe, and we did not collaborate on it, so they were each a little bit different. This is Rita's recipe? Oh my goodness, look at that.
It takes quite a while to make the soup. You buy the root, and then you bring it home. Sometimes celery root is very hard to get. It isn't always easy to find. One year, I remember, we couldn't find it in any of the regular supermarkets.
And they're not very hard, they're not that hard to find. You usually have to order them from the grocery store, but there are several that carry them. These were about like this, and there were 10 of them. And they were very consistent in their sizes, so they were bigger than a hard ball, but not as big as, they weren't like this. They come like this sometimes, and they're all gnarly on the bottom. I mean, they're really ugly things. You don't peel them to take off the skin, you just peel them to get part of the dirt off. And then they have to dig out the dirt from the rest of it. They're very strange. They're very strange things. And this is pure celery root that has been cleaned, chopped, boiled, and then put through the blender to make the puree.
Then you make a roux out of butter and flour and add milk and chicken bouillon.
So it's quite a process. Quite a process.
Well, celery soup is something that I remember from my childhood that I just literally despised. And the reason being is because if you've ever been around it when they are making it, it has this really horrid smell that I just perceived it. I mean, I never even tried it till I was 18 because all I could think about was the smell. And for days it lingered in our house. It was just terrible.
It's true, it did smell bad when it was cooking.
I remember my mom, when she cooked it, and still does cook it, that it doesn't smell very good when they're making it.
It does leave a peculiar odor in the home for a while. If we're involved in the soup, we have to transport it.
One time we had an old army blanket in the back of our automobile, and when we got to Tacoma, we had about as much soup on the army blanket as we did in the pots. And we had celery soup in the trunk for 2 or 3 years following that.
I guess the reason that the celery soup has stayed as a tradition is because people like it.
There's really nothing like it. You can't buy it in the store, and I don't think anybody else would go to the trouble of making it.
I think the soup started as a tradition because it's the basic beginning of the meal. It's the first thing that you do in the evening is the soup. Everything else that follows can vary, but for some reason or other, that one foundation that begins the evening has to stay the same and always has stayed the same.
Part of the tradition is the uniqueness of it as well as the quality of it, I think. But of course it's not the soup itself, it's the people that keep this tradition going. It's just some recognizable catalyst that holds all of these people together on Christmas Eve.
I don't don't think Christmas Eve would be the same without celery soup. I think a lot of people would miss it if it didn't happen. I mean, the presents have gone by the wayside, the singing kind of on the stairs have gone by the wayside, but the celery soup, without that, it would be a lot different.
I'm very happy to have been a part of this family, and I'm grateful that Bernice started it. I believe she's the one that did.
It's become tradition, like Santa Claus is just part of Christmas, and we joke and we kid about it all. But it's really the foundation of our society, having traditions like that, and family getting together and doing things as families. If this was done more, I really think our world would be better.
I think that the celery soup is pretty much the glue that holds us all together.
Celery root soup, it tends to bring tears and nostalgia to the eyes and the minds and the tongues of we who have been around for a while. It's a wonderful tradition, and it's kind of symbolizes the whole meaning of Christmas, love and family and togetherness and all of those values that we hold so dear.
I guess the reason that the celery soup has stayed as a tradition. Wait a minute, maybe if I do this, how's that? Does that work?
Okay. Well, yes, the celery soup is a tradition.
So now we're looking for anybody else who wants to carry this on. We'll revise the recipe together if someone would come forth and be willing to do that.
Most everything that I was introduced to in the Riehl household was a new adventure for me.
I was new to the family. I'm an only child, so life was new to me.
What was that year, dear?
High school, college.
That was 1946.
We go back for so many helpings of soup that we're full by the time the main course comes around.
One Christmas Eve, I did eat 7 bowls of celery soup. And I'm sure that's the most that anybody's ever eaten at Christmas Eve.
Well, sure, I'll learn how to make it. But the deal is whoever makes the soup doesn't have to host the party. That's definitely a rule.
And as I mentioned earlier, I never have less than 3 helpings.
Sing songs a little bit. That's about it.
I like the oyster dressing. And Diet Coke, of course. A big mug of Diet Coke.
Boy, I tell you what, that soup is a wonderful thing. I'd really wish I had a bigger spoon, though.
We have a new tradition. We're starting this evening at the Edmonds house, and I happen to would like to say that I think that's a good addition. Yes, a good addition.